The sun hung high over the gated community, baking the perfectly trimmed lawns and glistening rooftops of the million-dollar homes. The pool water sparkled like glass, a deep turquoise under the summer sky, disturbed only by the soft ripples as Marcus leaned back in his lounge chair. He had the kind of confidence that only came from years of hard work, struggle, and victory. To the neighbors, he was just the rich black guy who had bought the biggest house in the subdivision. But behind the quiet smile, Marcus was a self-made millionaire who owned half the commercial real estate in town and had investments stretching across 3 states. He wasn't flashy. He didn't show off his wealth with gaudy jewelry or loud cars. What he had was understated. A sleek black Mercedes, a private chef who came twice a week, and a backyard oasis that could have belonged to a 5-star resort. His pool was the envy of the neighborhood, heated, saltwater, complete with a rock waterfall and outdoor bar. But for Marcus, it wasn't about showing off, it was about peace. After all the years of fighting through poverty, being underestimated, and hearing the word, no, he had earned the right to relax in his own backyard. But not everyone in the community saw it that way. The HOA board had always resented him. They hated that he bought the largest home outright, while most of them were drowning in mortgages. They whispered behind his back at meetings, always finding some reason to single him out. Too many guests at his house, his music, too loud, or even the color of his outdoor furniture not being aesthetic enough. On this particular day, Marcus sensed the tension before it arrived. He had noticed a few board members lurking around the property line earlier in the morning, whispering to each other like high school kids plotting something. He ignored them at first, stretching out on the poolside chair with a cold drink in hand. But around noon, he heard the telltale sound of boots on pavement. When he looked up, 3 men were marching through the side gate. They wore black polo shirts with patches that read, HOA enforcement, cheap metal badges clipped to their belts, and mirrored sunglasses they probably thought made them look official. To anyone else, it might have seemed intimidating. But Marcus had seen enough real authority in his life to know these were clowns. They looked like wannabe cops from a bad TV show. One of them, the leader, barked out in a deep voice, "Sir, you're in violation of HOA Code 17B, Section 4. No unauthorized pool use is allowed during community quiet hours." Marcus nearly spit out his drink laughing. He glanced at his Rolex. "It's noon," he said calmly. "What quiet hours are you talking about?" The second man stepped forward, puffing out his chest. "We've had multiple complaints. You don't have clearance to host gatherings at the pool today. We'll need you to vacate the premises immediately." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Gatherings? It's literally me, my drink, and this chair." But the fake enforcers weren't here to debate. They were here to intimidate. That much was clear. They started circling like sharks, muttering things about citations and fines, scribbling nonsense on clipboards. The third one even started snapping pictures with his phone, muttering about evidence. Marcus leaned forward, resting his forearms on his knees. He wasn't angry, yet. More than anything, he was curious how far these wannabes thought they could push him. "You boys done playing?" he asked coolly. "Because I don't remember inviting clowns to my pool party." That struck a nerve. The leader's face twisted into a scowl. "Sir, if you don't comply, we'll escalate this matter. Don't test us." Marcus chuckled. His neighbors had no idea who they were dealing with. While they saw a man with dark skin and assumed he didn't belong, they didn't know his background. They didn't know he'd grown up in the roughest part of the city, learned how to negotiate million-dollar contracts in boardrooms full of sharks, and had contacts in places these posers couldn't even dream of. If there was one thing Marcus was an expert at, it was shutting down disrespect with a single move. The 3 fake officers loomed closer, clearly expecting him to panic or pack up and leave. Instead, Marcus stood, towering over them. He moved slowly, deliberately, the way a lion rises when it's tired of being provoked. His voice dropped lower, steady and commanding. "You boys really want to go down this road?" he asked. The leader sneered. "We're authorized. You don't have a choice." That's when Marcus made his move. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He simply reached into the pocket of his swim shorts, pulled out his phone, and with one tap, activated his home security system. Immediately, the sound of mechanical clicks echoed around the yard. Cameras on the roof swiveled toward the intruders. Motion sensors activated, and a calm automated voice announced, "Warning. Trespassers detected. Security protocol initiated." The men froze. Their cheap bravado faltered as Marcus calmly tapped another button. A steel gate slid shut at the side entrance they had used, locking them inside the property. The cameras zoomed in, catching their every twitch in high definition. Marcus took a slow sip of his drink, savoring the look on their faces. You said you're enforcement officers, right? Then you shouldn't mind if we get some law enforcement involved. Real law enforcement. Before they could protest, he hit one more button. The system dialed directly into his private security firm, former law enforcement and military professionals he paid handsomely to monitor his estate. Within seconds, a live operator answered, already watching the footage. Mr. Jackson, we see 3 unidentified individuals trespassing on your property. Response team is en route. Estimated arrival, 6 minutes. The color drained from the men's faces. Suddenly their clipboards didn't look so official, their badges looked like toys, and their fake authority melted away under the weight of reality. Marcus tilted his head, studying them. Now, you've got 6 minutes before some very real professionals arrive. You want to explain to them why you broke into a private residence, impersonated officers, and harassed the homeowner. The leader stammered, his earlier confidence gone. We were just checking compliance. Just routine law procedure. Marcus smirked. Routine, huh, funny, because I own this property outright. And I also happen to own the land that your precious HOA's clubhouse sits on. You boys picked the wrong man to play games with. He let the words hang heavy in the air, each one slicing through their phony authority. They shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the locked gate, the cameras, the watchful homeowner who didn't so much as flinch. Marcus didn't need to raise his voice or throw a punch. He destroyed them with one move, exposing them for the frauds they were and reminding them who really held the power here. And now, with sirens faintly wailing in the distance, the men realized their little act had just turned into the biggest mistake of their lives. The summer sun beat down mercilessly, bouncing off the pale concrete and shimmering across the surface of the water in Marcus Jackson's backyard pool. The place looked like something lifted straight out of a luxury travel magazine, a waterfall feature cascading down a wall of stones, palm trees swaying gently in the warm breeze, and lounge chairs arranged with precision around the deck. For Marcus, though, this wasn't for show. It was his sanctuary. After years of clawing his way up from nothing, this backyard was the prize he had worked for. He had built himself from the ground up, hustling through long nights, investing when others doubted him, and turning small ventures into multi-million-dollar companies. By the time he hit his early 40s, Marcus had money flowing in from multiple directions, real estate, tech startups, and even a chain of fitness centers. He had long ago stopped worrying about bills or the judgment of others. What he hadn't stopped worrying about, however, was the HOA. From the moment he moved into this community, the HOA board members made it their personal mission to remind him he was an outsider. They hid their disdain behind petty rules and thinly veiled complaints, but Marcus saw it for what it was. He was the only black homeowner on this side of the community, and no matter how much money he had, they hated the fact that he owned the biggest house with the best lot. Every week, there was some new notice slipped into his mailbox, something about the shade of paint on his shutters, the number of cars in his driveway, or the unauthorized gatherings at his pool. But Marcus didn't rattle easily. He paid their fines without blinking, fought back with lawyers when necessary, and lived his life anyway. What they didn't understand was that he wasn't some desperate man they could intimidate. He was the one person in the neighborhood who didn't need their approval. That day, he was reclining on a lounge chair in navy blue swim trunks, sipping from a glass of iced tea, when he noticed movement near the side gate. He didn't expect anyone, his chef wasn't due, and his cousin, the only family member who ever visited, was out of town. He sat up a little, shielding his eyes against the glare, and that's when he saw them. 3 men stepped into his backyard as if they owned it. They wore black polos with embroidered patches that read, "Law Enforcement," cargo pants, and mirrored aviators. Their belts carried radios and clipboards, and each had a shiny tin badge clipped at the hip. To someone else, they might have looked official. But Marcus had been around enough real law enforcement in his business dealings to know these guys weren't it. He didn't move at first. He just watched as they spread out across his pool deck like vultures, muttering to one another. One pulled out a phone and started snapping pictures of his chairs and tables. Another began writing on a clipboard, pretending to make notes. Finally, the tallest of the 3 approached, his boots clapping loudly against the concrete. "Sir," he barked, his tone full of forced authority. "You're in violation of HOA Code 17B, Section 4. This pool is not authorized for use at this time. You'll need to vacate immediately." Marcus blinked slowly, letting the silence stretch. Then he leaned forward and rested his drink on the table beside him. "It's my pool," he said flatly. And it's noon. You want to explain what law I'm breaking by swimming in my own backyard? The man shifted uncomfortably but pressed on. We've received complaints. This is considered a quiet hour in the community. Gatherings aren't permitted. Marcus gave a short laugh, incredulous. Gatherings. It's just me. What do you see here? 30 people partying. Or a man enjoying his own property. The second man joined in, puffing his chest out like a rookie cop trying to impress. Doesn't matter. Complaints were made. You're out of compliance. If you don't comply, we'll be forced to escalate the matter. The third circled closer, lifting his phone to record Marcus. Everything you say is being documented. For your own protection, Marcus. Studied them with calm detachment. Their rehearsed language, their cheap uniforms, their empty threats, it all reeked of performance. He knew exactly what was going on. The HOA board had finally taken their pettiness to the next level. They'd created their own little enforcement squad to harass him, hoping he'd lash out and give them a reason to fine him or drag him into court. He rose slowly from his chair, standing tall and broad-shouldered, his presence alone enough to make the three men shift uneasily. Marcus wasn't a man you could box into a corner. His voice was calm, but it carried a weight that silenced the buzzing cicadas around them. You boys sure you want to keep pushing this? He asked. The leader sneered. We're authorized. You don't have a choice. Marcus gave a small nod, almost amused. Then he reached into the pocket of his swim shorts and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen once. All at once, the atmosphere in the backyard changed. Cameras mounted on the roof swiveled and focused on the men. Motion sensors activated, and a crisp automated voice rang out from hidden speakers. Warning. Trespassers detected. Security protocol initiated. The three froze, glancing around nervously. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't lunge forward. He didn't need to. Instead, he lifted the phone again and tapped another button. The side gate they had come through clicked shut with the sound of an electronic lock. They were trapped inside the yard. I've got a state-of-the-art security system, Marcus said evenly. Every inch of this property is covered. You stepped onto private land without permission. You want to tell me again how authorized you are? The leader opened his mouth, but Marcus cut him off with a raised hand. He tapped again, and the phone screen lit up with a live video feed. Within seconds, a calm female voice answered. Mr. Jackson, we're seeing 3 unidentified intruders on the east perimeter. Response team is already en route. ETA 5 minutes. The color drained from the men's faces. Marcus turned the phone so they could see the operator's screen. See that? That's what actual authority looks like. Real security, real professionals. And in about 5 minutes, they're going to be here asking questions. You sure you want to stick around for that? The second man swallowed hard. The one with the phone recording slowly lowered it. The leader tried to recover, mumbling something about routine checks and compliance procedures. But it was too late. Their cheap theater had already collapsed under the weight of reality. Marcus stepped closer, close enough for them to feel the heat of his presence. Let me make this real clear, he said. You don't walk into my yard. You don't threaten me. And you damn sure don't impersonate authority on my property. Next time you try a stunt like this, it won't just be my security you'll be explaining yourselves to, it'll be the police. And trust me, impersonating officers carries a very real prison sentence. He let that sink in. The sound of faint sirens began to drift through the air, growing closer. The 3 men looked like they wanted to melt into the pavement. Marcus didn't yell. He didn't shove. He didn't need to. With one move, calling on the system he had put in place, he had stripped them of their fake power and reminded them who truly held control. And as he picked up his glass of iced tea again, the only thing on Marcus's mind was whether to let the cops take them in, or let them run, tails tucked, with a story that would haunt the HOA board forever.